Okay, welcome back, everybody. Latest episode of Retention Chronicles, and one I think, John, it's been a long time coming. Jon Snow, founder and president of Snow Agency, joins us today, which we're super pumped about. I think Snow Agency, not necessarily you, John, but somebody on your team was like one of the first conversations I had when I started at Malomo a year and a half ago. So that's why I say long time coming, and really appreciate you giving us some time today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yes, yeah. Wish you were in New York for Grow. That's where I'm at. We could have done this live, but when we do the next one, I'll come down to Miami and we can do it there.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Beautiful background you got there in the office. I actually didn't know, so Snow Agency has an office in Miami. That's like kind of rare these days for you to have dedicated space, right?
Yeah, so the snow agency was actually built in New Jersey. That's where our headquarters was. Then I made the move about 2 years ago. And here we are now. And Miami is the headquarters of Snow.
Amazing. Amazing. I've been down there a couple times to visit our mutual buddy Brandon from Electric. He's also been on the pod a couple times. So next time I'm in town, we'll definitely hit you up. We obviously talk a lot about Shopify ecosystem and retention marketing and all of that. But before we get into that, we like to ask our guests one or two things that you're excited about in your personal life.
Yeah. So let's see. I mean, the thing I'm most excited about, honestly, is NFL season is right around the corner. So training camp starts in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
Diehard New York Giants fan. So that's top of mind for me. I'm a huge sports fan, and like the past few months, once March Madness ends, it's brutal. It's a slow time.
So brutal. I always say, like, it is a blessing that period in the sports year is during the summer, because at least like weather wise, it's the best time of the year. You don't think as much about how horrible it is that the only thing we have on is baseball.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a perfect time to travel. I never try to travel during football season. God forbid, I miss one football Sunday.
How many Giants games do you normally go to a year? Do you like?
Well, now that I live in Miami, it's a bit difficult.
Yeah, right.
I try to go to at least a few. Last year they played in Miami, so that was an obvious one. I do have season tickets still, so I find an excuse to go back to New Jersey and try to time it, of course, with when the Giants are at home. So yeah, probably like 3 or 4 games a year I hit right now.
Okay, and then how are we feeling about the squad?
I'm always overly optimistic, so I try to like pump the brakes. I mean, last year they exceeded expectations. We'll see. Second year, the same coaching staff, got some continuity. I'm hoping another playoff run. Who knows? When the Giants make the playoffs, they're dangerous.
Is Saquon healthy?
Well, the question is Saquon signed? He's still,
Okay.
still a free agent. Well, yeah, they have him under the franchise tag tender, but he still hasn't signed it. So we'll see if he plays, but he's supposed to be healthy. He'll end up playing. He'll end up signing.
Yeah. Okay, and then we got to ask about basketball since that just finished. Are you a Miami fan now? You can be. You could get away with it.
Nope, I'm actually a Miami hater when it comes to basketball. I'm a diehard Knicks fan. So like I was rooting against Miami in the finals.
Yeah.
You know,
Do you hate them for any reason other than they won the East?
Well, yeah, I mean, they've just historically knocked the Knicks out of the playoffs since I was a kid. My dad always said, don't become a Knicks fan. You're going to be, devastated more often than not, like he is. And he was right. But yeah, I just literally grew up watching, the Knicks and the Heat in the playoffs, and just the Knicks always getting knocked out, and cared a lot more when I was a little kid, that's for sure. But now I just accept it. They're never going to win.
That's why like a playoff run is good, really great year anyway. So expectations low means you can enjoy it a little bit more.
Exactly.
Mariah and I, we were talking before the recording started, both in Indianapolis normally when I'm not traveling for work or for fun. So we had some good Pacers Knicks rivalries back in the day.
Oh yeah, Reggie Miller also was a Nick killer. It was really the Pacers and the Heat. Those are the two.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. And that was like, I think I was probably an infant when that was like at the height of its rivalry. But like even just watching back on like whenever 30 for 30 show mentions that rivalry, I always get so hyped.
Yep. Yep. That sums up
That's
being a
awesome.
Knicks fan right there. That Reggie Miller, like
Yeah,
last like 30 seconds to win. That sums it up.
right. Yeah, 8 points in 9 seconds or something like that
Exactly.
to knock him out. Yeah,
Yeah.
unreal,
Well, you
unreal.
guys just got a Nick. You just got Obi Toppin.
Got
So
Obi Toppin.
hopefully he
That'll be
brings some bad luck
interesting.
over to you guys.
Thanks, man. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We also signed Tyrese Halliburton to a max contract, which seems to me like a little aggressive, but we'll see. We had to make some moves. So
Yeah. He's the guy I wanted the Knicks to draft when I think they
oh
took top.
really?
Yeah, because they needed a point guard and he was the guy. So
Okay.
yeah,
All right. Well, cool. Now we got both. So
yeah,
we'll
yeah, you
see.
got both.
Okay. Anything else before we move on? Anything
No,
else you're excited
well,
about?
personal. Well, I'm an orthodontist, and this year, recently, actually, I got a piece of research of mine published in the National Orthodontic Journal. So that's like a huge accomplishment for orthodontists. I don't treat patients anymore, but this was research I had done over a few years and took a while to get published, and it finally got through. So
I
pretty
love
proud.
how, like, first of all, that's awesome. I also love how, like, your personal life that you're excited about is like your side gig of being an orthodontist.
Yep. Most of the personal life, it's like that's just like my way of thinking. It's like if your professional life bleeds into your personal life and you kind of see your professional life as a part of your personal life and it becomes part of like a hobby set, that's when you really thrive. So it's like if you enjoy what you're doing, that's where you go the furthest.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that might come back around when we ask our final question today. But that's awesome, man. Congrats. Okay, with that said, we mentioned the orthodontist side gig. Tell us about your background to date, and would love to also incorporate that, like how you went from orthodontist, I imagine, like school and then career, to founding an e-commerce agency.
Yeah, so it's I hope you have 2 hours for the story. I'll give you the abbreviated version. So over 10 years ago, I was actually a general dentist in the Air Force. I was stationed in Louisiana, in the middle of nowhere, not New Orleans. It was Shreveport, Louisiana, which is like northwest in the middle of nowhere, like right on the border of Texas and Arkansas and Oklahoma. And I had nothing to do after work because literally nothing to do there other than go to the casinos. They have a ton of casinos out there. There's only so many days a week you could do that. So the days would start early, 7 a.m., end at 3 p.m. I would get home and nothing to do. It was before I was married. So my brother was building these large social media pages back then. So he owns Rap on Instagram, tens of millions of followers throughout his network. But he was building a bunch of pages just like that. And he had the idea of, hey, why don't we build an affiliate marketing platform that got all these influencer pages, all these athletes, all these celebrities or publishers on the platform, and then brands that wanted placements on those pages could come through us. So I ended up helping him on that. This is before I even knew what digital marketing or social media was outside of personal use, and built this platform with him. It was wildly successful. We drove 9 figures in revenue through that platform within a couple of years of launching it.
Wow.
And this was just as a hobby, and I was learning on the fly, got pretty deep into it. That's where I was learning like offer testing, landing page design, managing influencers and everything like that, and understanding what works and what doesn't work. And then we, got deeper into it, and we're like, how do we leverage this huge network we built, to take this another step? And that's how we got into e-commerce. We started launching Shopify brands. So we launched our first Shopify brand, literally, classic Shopify entrepreneurial story. My garage in Louisiana was on my fulfillment center, literally shipping out orders out of there, only driving traffic.
What were you selling?
We were selling, it was like jewelry accessories. So like necklaces, rings, things like that, watches. And so we were driving traffic purely through that influencer network we built. And drove 7 figures in revenue profitably from day one just through the influencer marketing. And that's where we started getting deeper into it. And we're like, wow, we really have something here. Why don't we learn paid media? Imagine we learn, conversion rate optimization and everything on the back end, how to Shopify app, ecosystem. What do we need to build towards our tech stack to optimize everything here? email marketing. So we started thinking about all these things. We built a blueprint and we launched a second brand. Same results, 7 figures in the first 12 months, profitably, bootstrapped with a credit card. And we launched our third brand, 8-figure brand. Did 8 figures within less than a year, actually. And then that was one that we really started carrying. We started building a team around that. And then we fast forward, got up to 9 brands in our portfolio at our peak. I'm still a dentist at this point. During this time, my Air Force commitment is finishing up, start orthodontic residency. I wasn't ready to leave my whole career. I worked 30 years to, achieve. And I went to dental school to become an orthodontist. So I wasn't going to just give up that dream. Kept seeing this through and juggled both for a while. So I moved back to New York from there. During this time, had our 9 brands, had our team assembled. We had like 15 people. I was managing everything between patients, on the way to work, on the way home from work. I was taking public transportation an hour and a half each way from New Jersey to New York City. So I had plenty of time to, work before and after I got to the clinic. So, during that time, outside of our brands, we started building reputation. Snow Brothers are launching all these brands, they're scaling. We want to, whatever they have, we want. So brands started coming to us asking if we could essentially run their marketing using the same strategies we were doing for our brands. And then we took on a client, and then we had as many clients. Fast forward a few months, now all these other clients start coming in and had to choose. Do you want to be on the brand side or the agency side, right? And so we realized we were most passionate about the growth marketing, hated fulfillment. We were running our own fulfillment center at scale. That's not fun. Don't recommend it. And so we exited those brands to focus on building out the agency. And that was 4 years ago. And then during this time, the agency, it launched officially September 2019. I was finishing up residency in early 2020. We all know what hit in 2020, New York City. That's where it all started. So I was actually under contract to buy an orthodontic practice right at the tail end of my residency. Then COVID hit the next week. So I pulled out of that deal. And during that time, we know what happened with e-commerce, digital marketing, skyrocketed. So the agency just started, growing like wildfire. I pulled out of the orthodontic practice deal, and then I haven't looked back. I never went back to practicing. So it's crazy how at an event like COVID kind of it all up. But if it wasn't for that, I would be still juggling both careers.
Yeah. Wow. What a story, man. That is just unbelievable. The first thing I was curious about is like when you built that or sort of pieced together probably one of the first like legit influencer marketing platforms, I would imagine, back in the day. Did you monetize that at all with other brands, or did you just simply like build it out of necessity for your own portfolio?
Yeah, no, we actually monetized it. So essentially it was affiliate marketing. So typical, brands would pay a fixed CPA, we'll pay an influencer $50 for every purchase they drive. Every influencer had their own UTM that we were facilitating. And then we would just take a cut, if it was 5 or 10% of that CPA, so that the, influencer would get paid $40. The brand is paying $50. We would take that $10. And so we were monetizing this. And this was actually through, and it's funny how things change. The reason why we stopped doing that platform is because this relied on driving traffic and revenue purely through organic influencer posts. The value of influencer marketing today isn't in the organic post. It's taking that piece of content and then amplifying it on the ad platform. So actually putting media dollars behind it. Mm-hmm. So if we would have pivoted it, then, we'd probably have another business we'd be talking about right now. But the e-commerce side of everything we were doing was really taking off. And, we didn't have time to honestly juggle building that platform, pivoting it towards like a creator platform, like all the ones that exist today. And we just kept running with e-commerce brands and scaling through paid media.
Sure. Yeah, I want to maybe dive a little bit deeper into that, like the tactics that you're employing today around affiliate marketing. But first, I'm also curious, like I imagine it was a major decision to decide to sell the 9 businesses that you created and focus on the agency. Like what went into that thought process and decision making?
Yeah, I mean, you get to the point where at scale, like you need one business model. And we realized, obviously, it would almost be selfish and spreading ourselves too thin if we tried to scale both in parallel.
Sure.
So in order to I firmly believe if you spread yourself too thin, you'll just be a jack of all trades, master of none, and you have more value that you can extract from really focusing on one thing and going all in on it rather than trying to make two things work, and then you're never really going to get too deep on either. And then it's a constant seesaw battle. Where should I spend more time? And then it's like you may take one step forward here and then two steps back on the other side, and then you go and it's the same thing, and then you're kind of playing with that balance forever. So, it was an easy decision when we sold those brands because most of them honestly became clients. We sold, we weren't actively involved, but they wanted to keep us on for the marketing. So it was a no-brainer. It could just plug and play into our agency side.
Got it. Okay. And then sort of piggybacking off of that, obviously like you and your brother have a really unique experience founding, and like also with the hands-on experience of running brands yourselves. What would you say, like this, like there's a new 100 agencies in the Shopify ecosystem every week, it seems like. What would you say sort of like sets Snow Agency apart today?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's a question that if you're on the brand side, you need to ask your agency. Yeah. Right? Because there's no certification, this agency is certified. They know what they're doing. Like there's no, if you go to the doctor, they went to med school, they went to dental school, they graduated, they passed the boards, right? You go to an agency, there's no type of, governing body that dictates if they know what they're doing. So you need to understand where they come from, their background, how they became an agency. And that's what sets us apart, is that we were actually on the brand side for years and years and years. We did it ourselves with our own dollars, didn't raise a dollar of money, started with a credit card. Everything we did was with profitability in mind and understanding the brand side. You go to the agencies today, they might be good in the ad platform. You go to a Facebook ads agency, they know Facebook ads. Like I'm not going to say most don't, but they don't understand anything outside of that ad platform that impacts all of the results within the ad platform. So, we understand the full Shopify app ecosystem. We were customers ourselves on the brand side of all of them. So we bring that consulting approach where every brand comes in and we do a full website audit, tech stack audit. We make website optimization recommendations. We make tech stack recommendations. Hey, you could increase average order value if you simply install X, Y, and Z app, and we can implement it for you. And your return on ad spend or your marketing efficiency ratio will go up proportionally if we can increase your average order value by 20%. Find me a media buying tactic that can increase average order value 20% at the flip of a switch. And that's the beauty of the Shopify ecosystem, is that these apps integrate. You don't need to be technical at all to take advantage of all the innovation that's happening here. So we understand that side. We understand conversion rate optimization. We understand SEO. We have a full breadth of experience and capabilities, and we understand how to identify the problems in any e-commerce business, and we have the solutions in-house, or we can collaborate with other teams, if you have solutions external to us to really solve the biggest problems for every business.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the founder experience yourselves, and I love that you called out like bootstrapped, because I think a lot of times if you've made a name for yourself in the space, you can go raise a bunch of money, and then how involved are you actually in the operational and like actually operating these businesses? If you just went and raised a bunch of money from people who are much more hands-on, you outsource it to an agency, right? So I do agree. Like I think the work that we've done together even sort of speaks to how diligent you guys are and hands-on you are with your clients. I'm wondering now, well, first of all, what kind of clients do you typically serve? Want to make sure that we let our audience know like who you like to work with, who you're typically working with. And are you, based on what you just said, you talked a lot about SEO and conversion rate optimization. Are most of the engagements really acquisition focused, or do you sort of blend acquisition and retention? Where do you sort of sit in the customer lifecycle?
Yeah, all great questions and pretty complicated. So recently, actually, I'll start with the acquisition, right? Because that kind of frames where we're at today. So we were actually recently acquired by Avenue Z Network. which is the founder of Avenue Z, the CEO of Avenue Z, Jeff Herzog. He was the founder and CEO of iCrossing, a very large independent agency, that's 20 plus years old. And then, he exited that to Hearst Magazine, did it again with Zog Digital, exited that to Investis Digital. Then he came and wanted to build Avenue Z Network. He wanted to do it a third time on a large scale, potentially even a larger scale than he had done before. So Avenue Z Network, Snow Agency was the first agency acquired by Avenue Z. And since that, we've acquired two other agencies, an SEO company and a PR company. And we all actually have different client sets. So at the Snow Agency, we've always been focused mostly on e-commerce. 95% of our clients are Shopify brands. Our ideal client profile is really Shopify plus brands. I would say doing at least $1 million in revenue or are well-funded and can really extract the value of the services that we can provide. If you don't have a media budget, that's commensurate with, the service retainers we charge. It doesn't make sense to work with us at an early stage, or if funding is a sincere concern. Our strategies are actually pretty similar, whether it's a brand pre-revenue. We've taken brands pre-revenue. Actually, we took one brand pre-revenue. Now they're at a $60 million run rate. Wow. Within 3 years of launching. So, they're growing like wildfire. So we're really good at launching. That's what we did. 9 of our own brands before we were an agency. And then we have some of the largest Shopify brands in the world come to us, when they're already in 9-10 figure revenue range. So, we can really fit in at any given point in time. And, we have a strong acquisition program like paid social, paid search, but then also we have a great email SMS marketing team as well. So, anywhere in the life cycle, we can really help out. So I would say that's Snow in a nutshell. Obviously now we have the SEO expertise. Most of their clients are B2B. The Orlando Magics of the world, the AAAs of the world, the Universals. And now we have that PR company as well. And it's really technology. It's fintech, health tech, frontier tech, VCs, PEs. But when you bring them all together, so like our client portfolio is really diverse now. And I think that's the beauty of it all, because when you bring a performance marketing element and all the learnings and scrappiness of e-commerce, and you bring that to PR, where it's more brand awareness, upper funnel kind of, then you blend it. It hasn't been done before. And that's really our North Star. So it's creating narratives, in earned media with the, Forbes, TechCrunch, any publisher out there. But how do you take that narrative and amplify it on paid search, right, on the organic search results page, on a Facebook ad platform, and target certain people with the narratives that you're putting out, with the personalized messages. So we're bringing kind of these things together. It might seem like it doesn't make sense, but we're integrating it, and it's going to make a lot of sense pretty soon.
Yeah, that was going to be a question. Like, do you see a world where a client of Snow's now will be able to access the resources of the other two acquisitions that Avenue Z made? It doesn't sound like maybe right off the bat, but once you start to sort of like learn from each other and integrate offerings, that could actually be another sort of up level for your merchants.
Yeah, we didn't expect it to be this quick. It's been really quick, and it's been way smoother than we expected. The other companies we're integrating with are also world-class in what they do. So we're already sharing a lot of our clients are now, opting in for SEO. A lot of the PR clients now want to learn more about amplifying through social media. So we're pretty much fully integrated at this point. The PR amplification service that I keep alluding to, that's still in the works. There's a lot of work to be done there, but there's a lot of collaboration happening right now. Yeah, very interesting. That's awesome. And I think going back to sort of what sets Snow apart now, what sets Avenue Z apart is, like you mentioned it, with those other two sort of leading agencies that are now folded under one umbrella, is like just the credibility alone, I think, is a differentiator. And I think part of that is like what I was saying earlier, there's so many new entrants all the time, and they might, to your point, know like Facebook ads, or they might know Klaviyo, but being able to sort of tie it all together and be like legitimate business operators is like in and of itself a differentiator.
I mentioned at the top of the episode, I'm in New York for Grow this week. And last night I was talking to a founder who said I asked her if she's working with any agencies. She said she's not right now because she's been burned a couple times. And one of the examples she gave was an agency didn't work out. And she had somebody reach out to her on LinkedIn saying like, hey, thanks for the recommendation to the agent, this agency. She didn't name who it was. And she's like, what are you talking about? Well, turns out that this agency had created a fake email address pretending to be her to give like a positive review. And I think that there's probably a lot more of that going on than we would probably even know, just because the agency space is super crowded, and there's a lot of people who think like it's an easier job than it actually is if you're not legit and kind of come from the space and know what you're doing. So crazy story from last night here in New York, but I think the credibility thing in and of itself is huge, and Snow Agency certainly has sort of established themselves as one of the good ones.
Appreciate that. Yeah, that's a wild story. And the biggest issue that I found is really like the siloing of all these things. So it's like you have Facebook ad agencies, you have PR agencies, you have SEO agencies, you have CRO agencies, you have all these million different things, and they might all be good, but if they don't communicate to each other, so if you're a big brand, and even if you build it internally, you have your SEO department, your whatever, I don't have to repeat them all again. But then you might have some of it external, but usually they're siloed. They don't talk to each other. They don't have an integrated strategy. And by having that under one roof, with an agency like ours that is now acquiring best in class and then integrating all of that, every business that comes to us now, we take a much different approach than selling the one service we offer, right? So like they might, someone might come to us saying, we want Facebook ads. Instead of selling them Facebook ads, we can do a proper discovery now, like understanding, hey, what are you actually having issues with in your business that potentially Facebook ads can solve? So they might come in for Facebook ads, but we realize they need SEO or they need Google ads, right? And a lot of times they don't know what they don't know, but now by us having all these subject matter experts in every area you can think of that contributes to one thing, which is improving a business's outcome, that's, I think, the true differentiator now.
Absolutely. Very well said. Okay, let's sort of shift focus and get a little more tactical. What's a recent client project that you or your team have worked on that you're really excited about? And you don't necessarily have to name any brands or any very specific metrics, but if you can share any color around that, it's always helpful.
Yeah, I would say honestly the biggest win is a pretty recent one. Can't name the brand by name, but everyone that's listening has heard of this brand. It's one of the bigger Shopify brands in the world. They came to us with really just like a stagnancy problem, with just paid social in general. Like they didn't feel like they were, moving the needle, and things just felt stale. And their goal was really to acquire more new customers. They were so large that, they already had millions of customers. They want to find new customers that are not yet there. They don't want to spend 90% of their budget on retargeting. They need to grow the business, right? So that was really our main goal. And when we adopted this, we inherited the Facebook and TikTok accounts. Things were being done decently. They weren't awful, but by simply just applying modern day media buying principles on Meta and TikTok and consolidating the accounts and coming up with an actual creative strategy roadmap, and diverse creative testing, I'll say, we were able to cut spend in half. They were spending an exorbitant amount. We cut spend in half and doubled the amount of new customers we acquired. Wow. And increased overall revenue. So it's not like we just shifted budgets from retargeting to prospecting and, we doubled new customers. No, we brought incremental revenue, doubled the new subscribers or the new customers, and cut spend in half. So we saved, we're talking like hundreds of thousands of dollars at this point in just 6 months.
Wow. Can you share any of like some of those modern day principles that you've been able to leverage?
Yeah. So really the first thing is consolidation of the ad account, so the way that we inherited it, there were like probably close to 100 campaigns. Everything was spread thin. A lot of things were stuck in learning, and just there wasn't a ton of creative test, like zero actual ad copy testing. So we just reimagined the way that the account was set up. Everything got to active phase. We segmented, the store out by different collections, different target demographics, and then came up with a creative testing roadmap. Then there was, another format that wasn't being leveraged at all, like Advantage Plus Catalog, which is great for high SKU stores. So nothing, earth shattering in that regard, but we did have a ton of different creative formats that weren't being tested either. And we weren't just riding the coattails of this brand success. We were actually, just because you have a reported 10x return on ad spend doesn't mean that, you shouldn't be testing.
Right.
It might mean that you inherited an account that's already so successful that, a monkey could keep it at a 5x minimum, you know what I mean? But doesn't mean you can't take it from a 10x to a 20x by extra testing and reimagining. So that's what we did.
Sure. Absolutely. Do you find especially when it comes to, growing paid social or any of the sort of key aspects of the business that you feel Snow does an amazing job helping? Are there common sort of themes that present themselves when a client like that comes to you? It's well, the first thing we're going to do is this, because we know most merchants who are only using an in-house team or who have never done any sort of formalized testing are always going to have this problem. I'm just thinking how do we bring some value to our merchants today that maybe something that they can look into that most merchants don't think about?
Yeah, I would say where we bring the most initial value to all of our clients is when we do our website tech stack audit. We can improve performance within a matter of minutes by just identifying something that's so simple that they could implement on their store day one and have a massive impact on their business. So that's really the first thing. And I would say if you're a marketer, you're a brand, you just need to understand the Shopify app ecosystem and website analytics before you even think about paid media. Because if you don't have that right, there's no point on driving traffic to a website that's not optimized. You're just leaving money on the table. So really that's where we come in. I think the businesses that come to us that see the immediate value is I think the businesses that just aren't doing everything. They're not they might be great product people. They might be influencers or celebrities. They might have a team that, and this is actually another thing that I see often is a lot of these brand owners, they have an internal team, but if the brand owner is not a technical marketer, they don't have media buying expertise. They don't know how to build a team. They don't know how to manage a team. They don't know how to hire. They don't know how to critically even understand if the team is doing well or not. They're just okay, it is what it is. They don't know what they don't know. So I feel when those businesses come to us and they don't have that technical side, it's like pouring gasoline. If they're already successful and we just bring best practices across the board, hey, you're missing this, email automation flow that we could set this up and boom, that'll work. We could, some brands come to us, they don't even have an email or SMS strategy still in 2023. They might have abandoned cart flow set up. That's it. But as we know, retention marketing goes far beyond that. I mean, all that low hanging fruit, it still exists on at least 50% of e-commerce brands that I come across, where it's almost a no brainer or common sense for agencies or, experts in the space. But those are the ones that really see the biggest potential.
Yeah. I'm happy you mentioned that, the sort of no-brainer, whether it's a no-brainer app or a no-brainer strategy to put in place, kind of shifting focus to retention a little bit, because you guys have such a strong background in acquisition, now kind of offer the full suite of retention acquisition. How do you feel, how do you sort of look at retention when you do an audit, and what is an area, whether it's an app or some sort of tactic that you see brands regularly neglecting when it comes to retention marketing?
Another great question. So retention, I think everyone, it's a misconception. I wouldn't say misconception, but everyone thinks retention marketing. They just think generating revenue through email and SMS campaigns that are just pushing sales. That's not retention. That's a part of a retention strategy, but retention is generating revenue through email, SMS, push notifications, improving customer experience across the board, whether that be through, customer service, responding to phones quickly, being helpful, or responding to live chats quickly, or, whether it's just that post-purchase experience, quick delivery times, quick fulfillment times, transparent updates through email and SMS about where the package is once it leaves the warehouse, once it's, out for delivery, once it's actually delivered, and then a follow-up email. How do you like the product? Please review it. Like, that's also where retention comes into play. But then also email, SMS, push notifications, a communication strategy outside of just selling things, telling the brand story, talking about the brand mission, lifestyle associated with the brand, building in, that, and then even introducing community potentially, whether it be a Discord community or a Facebook group or wherever your community wants to live, that's up to you. But building a community and a lifestyle around that, and then incentivizing your customers to join that community and interact with each other. They become brand evangelists. That's kind of how I would summarize retention.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you feel is like the lowest hanging fruit that brands should look at, like right now, as far as evaluating their retention program? Because to your point, most brands are doing email, SMS right now. Some aren't, some might not have like the full strategy, but I think out of the box, even with Klaviyo, when you implement it, like the abandoned cart flows there, right? Like there are some flows that are out of the box that are going to help not only with acquisition and conversion, but also with retention. Let's assume most brands at least have like that baseline. What's like the next step, right? Like what's step 2?
I would say like the lowest hanging fruit that we look at benchmark, because if email and SMS and push revenue does not represent at least 25% of your overall store revenue, that means like you should be doing something to take a look at this further to get it there. And that's just a part of the overall retention game. As I just mentioned, that's not everything, but obviously everyone cares about the money. That's the sexiest thing to talk about. So if you're not hitting 25% of that overall store revenue through retention efforts, then you're probably leaving money on the table. And I would say the most common thing that I see is when we talk about like uncovering opportunity and retention accounts, tech is not integrated. So you might have Stamped, Okendo, whatever review software you prefer, on the store, but you don't even have that flow enabled. So, how are you even increasing the number of reviews on your store if you don't have that simple automation turned on or integrated? And then there's many other tech integrations. There's upsell, cross-sell. There's the subscription, win backs. If someone turns a subscription, having that flow turned on. There's the obviously a branded tracking page, right? So I mean, there's all these things to think about, and it all ties back to retention that not many brands are thinking of.
I love that. Like very tactical stat, because I think brands right now could, drop what they're doing and check how much revenue they're making from their retention channels and make sure that it's at least a quarter of their revenue. And yeah, we see that too. I mean, to your point earlier, John, like while it is really easy to integrate apps across the Shopify platform, it does take some effort, and not just effort like to press the buttons to get the tech integrated, but then the strategy behind like how they all flow together, right? And I think that's something that a lot of times agencies like Snow can help with.
Yeah, and then how do you optimize the technology you're paying for, right? Like I keep going back to like, the review software. You could
Right.
sign up for Stamped or Okendo or Yotpo, but if you're not increasing the number of reviews, what good is it, right? Like, so what's the strategy around it? How do you connect all the dots?
Exactly. Okay, cool. So we talked about retention, some great nuggets in there. What are you guys excited about at Snow, between you and your brother and the team, in terms of like trends that are going to be sort of driving the future of the Shopify ecosystem and e-commerce in the back half of this year and into 2024?
Yeah, so there's a few trends. I mean, the first one really is like what I'm excited about is really taking the human element out of media buying.
Okay.
AI-driven media buying. I mean, it's all objective. Brands know their KPIs. They know their goals. They should know what their break-even, CPI is, what their break-even return on ad spend is. Whatever metrics they're looking at, they know it. It's a number. It's mathematical. So you plug that in and, how much better is a machine at potentially controlling or optimizing campaigns, whether it be scaling or cutting budget or turning off or turning on? That should really be done by machines, not humans. There's a lot of human error and subjectivity that can be introduced into media buying. The humans should focus on the things outside of the ad account that impact the media buying performance, like the creative strategy, the conversion rate optimization, the funnel testing, the offer testing, the integrated strategy with SEO and organic and paid and PR. So that's what I'm excited for. It's still not here yet. There are certain softwares that have rule-based things, but how do we take it another notch where machines are actually looking at saturation curves, So should you scale this one ad set or audience that's already saturated? You might have a 5x return on ad spend on it, but you'll have diminishing returns if you keep scaling it. So like a machine should be able to understand when that audience is saturated or not and make decisions on it. Humans would take forever and a lot of math to figure that out. So that's one thing I'm excited about. And I know everyone loves to talk about AI. So that's my top one.
Yeah. Before you move on from that one, are there any specific AI tools that you've seen already doing this well, and sort of like easy to adopt and get started with, or
everything I'm playing with is too early, so I don't want to put my name behind it. But there's a lot going on that we're evaluating, and I'm excited for it. And I'll be happy to share once I see things that are worth it. The next one is really TikTok shops. So everyone talks about Facebook shops, Instagram shops, TikTok shops. I mean, we've had some clients just turn on their TikTok shop, and anytime they post something organically, the product is tagged in there and you can shop right through that post. I mean, we had one brand that turned this on and they sold out of an entire SKU, hundreds of units within that day from one organic post. And I don't know if this is TikTok like really digging into this and like favoring the algorithm for brands that have that activated and sending those things viral so word gets around. Kind of like what they did in the early days of random organic videos going viral. So everyone would start, investing their time and building there and becoming a creator there. We'll see, it remains to be seen. But right now, that's kind of a hot pocket where a lot of brands are seeing a ton of crazy organic success through TikTok shops. So that's something we're excited about. Then I keep mentioning the convergence of PR and paid media. Mm-hmm. That's what that's something that we're building on. Meta has really been focusing on partnership ads. I actually tweeted about that today and posted on LinkedIn about an early test that we did. We did an A/B test, partnership ads versus, standard like publisher or creator whitelisted ad or influencer whitelisted ad. And the partnership ad is far outperforming.
Interesting.
80% confidence, a whitelisted ad. And everyone talks about influencer whitelisting, but we're seeing that Meta's new shiny object for partnership ads, which I don't see many people using today. We're focusing on that. And that's actually part of our PR convergence tactic that we're focusing on. So let's say we have a fintech client and they were just featured in TechCrunch or Forbes or whatever publication. We get them that earned media, but now if we can run paid media to that press release, right, and it can say, whatever business with TechCrunch, and now run paid media to that press release. Now that PR narrative we got out there is getting amplified through partnership ads. So that's what I'm really focusing a lot of my time on right now, is building that out. Another thing, to keep an eye on for 2023 is really the consumer, the strength of the consumer and the Fed and interest rates and inflation. Yeah. Everything we do in performance marketing ties back to the consumer. If consumers aren't buying and they're timid to spend their money because they don't have as much disposable income, there's only so much we can do on the back end of Shopify or in an ad account that will convince people to buy. So everyone kind of misses that. I think that's like the big picture thing that affects us the most that nobody talks about. I've been pretty vocal about it for the past 2 years. Consumer sentiment index has been at the lowest level it's ever been in the past 40 years of it being tracked. So if people aren't buying things, that's what the index tracks, then how are we going to sell things, right? So like once the consumer becomes stronger, everything we do will magically start to seem like it's working a little better. So that's what I would keep an eye on for the back half of 23.
On that note, I've been like, we obviously, our business model is based on an order per month basis. So like we see all that data and, it's one thing to look at net new merchants and what they're doing, but we also have the historical data of what all of our merchants have done. And we saw like we typically see a little dip in Q2 on order volume overall from the merchants that we've served, like on a year over year basis. This year, though, while there was still a bit of a dip, it wasn't as like pronounced, and that shocked me because I would have thought, based on what you said, consumer sentiment and everything else that's going on in the macro, that we would have seen like probably the biggest dip year over year that we've ever seen. That wasn't the case. So in my head, I'm wondering, is that because the dip hasn't come yet and it's going to, or did we somehow engineer the soft landing that, everybody says is so elusive? What's your take on that? Do you think that it gets worse before it gets better? Or
well, I think the worst, honestly, I think the worst is behind us. Inflation has already reversed. The Fed has already shown that they're, going to be pivoting, and hopefully rates start dropping in 2024. I don't think they're dropping this year. If anything, I think they might increase this month or the next month.
Yep.
But it seems like the worst is behind us. So I think when we look year over year, I really do think last year was the worst. Yeah. So when we look year over year, it's not shocking that we're either flat, maybe slightly ahead, maybe slightly under. I think the worst is behind us.
Good. Love it. We'll take the positivity.
Yeah.
There's one other thing I wanted to ask you about in terms of the trends that you called out. We talked about AI. Oh yeah, on the sort of the things that we can't control, right? Like what the Fed does and what consumer sentiment is. Also, TikTok is another thing that's been in the news a lot. And while there's massive opportunity there, there's obviously more risk with TikTok than probably all the other social media platforms. How do you think brands should factor that risk in, if at all, based on the latest in the news?
Yeah, I think brands should always think about risk. And I don't think if you're a brand, if you're not diversifying like where your brand is, if you're all in on Amazon or you're all in on TikTok or you're all in on Facebook, you're doing yourself a disservice, because one day if one of those platforms decide to pivot on a policy or compete with you with a product like Amazon does all the time, or increase rates and it destroys your business model. I mean, if you're all eggs in one basket, you're doing it all wrong, and you better think now about how to fix that before it's too late. So when it comes to TikTok, yeah, you need to evaluate the risk. I don't think anything's going to happen with TikTok. It's, all media hysteria. I think, where there's smoke, there is fire, but I think it would be a massive deal if TikTok actually, got shut down for political reasons. I think it's just important for brands to understand the risk inherited with data and privacy and everything that potentially goes into it, and have policies internally around it, and just know what you're getting yourself into when you're there. And if it's something that you decide you're worth taking a risk on, then yeah, it's great. But if you're only on TikTok and something does happen, don't be surprised, or, blame yourself if that's where all your investment was.
Yeah. Diversification is good advice for more than just if you're a Shopify merchant, I think.
Yeah.
And with that, let's wrap it up. So, but I think, Mariah, we can confidently say Jon is the only orthodontist we've had.
100%. I've just been absorbing all of this because it's so amazing. But yeah, with confidence, I can say, yeah, you're the only orthodontist we've had. So setting the goal pretty high.
Well, yeah. If you want to talk about Invisalign next time, we could do an hour-long episode on that.
Next time. Love it. Insanely impressive career, obviously, so far, Jon. So you mentioned earlier, you said something along the lines of, we talked about diversification. I think that goes without saying, but you had also mentioned about finding your passion. One of the things that we like to wrap up with is one tip or trick that's helped you kind of get to where you are and that still guides you in your career day to day.
Yeah, I would say no matter where you're at in your career, whether it's you're an individual contributor, whether you're owning a brand, whether you're an agency owner, a business owner, you just need to always stay curious and always be learning, because the moment you stagnate as an individual, you're not going to progress your career. If you're a brand owner, your brand won't get to the next level. It won't stand the test of time, because we're in such an ever-changing environment where if you're not ahead of the curve, you're going to get left behind. If you are ahead of the curve, you're going to be way more valuable as a person, as a brand, as a brand leader. If you're a leader of a company and you don't understand where we're at in the world, whether it be the economy, whether it be platform updates, whether it be anything, if you're not ahead of that, like, and people see that, the business is kind of stagnating or not keeping up with the times, that's where you lose buy-in. That's where your business kind of reverses the growth and starts shrinking. So always learn. I mean, I'm always in my free time, like I, subscribe to newsletters. I'm curious. I'm always trying to figure out what's next. I think critically. I talk to a lot of people, see what their perspective is, and learn a ton from my peers. So that's like the main piece of advice I'd give.
I think it's fantastic. Any like in particular newsletters or subscription things that our audience should look into and sign up for?
That's a really good question. There's a variety of D2C podcasts. I don't even want to call any out by name. I don't want to upset people if I leave them off or forget about them, but there are probably 3 or 4 D2C podcasts itself, where if you're in this industry, if you own a brand, you work at a brand, you own an agency, work at an agency, you need to seek out these things, because the amount of information that is being delivered in real time, whether it be iOS 17, which probably 90% of the people listening don't even know what that entails, or if it does impact e-commerce or not, or how. All this stuff is being delivered to us. It's on us to find it out and then figure out when to listen to it or seek out that information. So I would start with podcasts. I would also go to Twitter, LinkedIn. I mean, if you follow the right people and you seek this out, you'll be able to get to the next level. You'll learn more on a day-to-day doing that than in any textbook you pick up.
Right. Absolutely. Cool, man. Well, again, really appreciate you stopping by. This was awesome. Lots of good tactical stuff, lots of great trends to look out for, and a lot of value overall to our listeners. So appreciate you stopping by, and hopefully we'll see each other in Miami real soon.
Been a pleasure. Thanks for having me. See you guys soon.
Thanks, Jon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.